Alright, that's good. Perfect.
Alright. Everything's synced up. You guys took the audio sync for everything?
Yep, everything's good.
How you doing, Marvin?
Good, how are you, James?
I'm doing great. Thanks again for doing this for us. I appreciate your time, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do have some questions to go through with you and everything, and hopefully you're comfortable.
I am.
Alrighty, so tell me about Carmel. Tell me about how Carmel was founded.
Carmel was founded in the late 1700s, around 1798, by a gentleman named Paul Ruggles. He was from, I think he was from Worcester, Massachusetts, he and his wife. And they came up here by, I think they came up by boat, but his furniture was brought up by oxen. And he stayed in Hamden the first winter. And either Hamden or Herman. I think it was Herman. And then in the spring, he took a log and cut it out and made a canoe, and he came up the South Stream, and they built a log home there. And that was, I think it was 1798. And he and his wife settled there in that log home. And then he had several children. And from there on, how much further do you want me to go?
I mean, as much as you want. I mean, I guess. So it was founded by
Paul Ruggles.
Yeah, just a regular guy, right? Just
Yes, very nice guy. He was a minister. He was a minister, and he ministered in several of the towns, Etna and Stetson, Newport, and he always kept a record of all of his sermons, and some of them, he was a Baptist, and he ministered some in Bangor. And then in 1825, they built a church here in Carmel. It's still standing today. And it was used by all the denominations. The Catholics used it, the Protestants used it, the Jewish used it. That was all. Yeah.
Did Edmund Lamb have anything to do with building that church?
Beg your pardon?
Did Edmund Lamb have anything to do with building that church, or was that a different church?
No, this was long before Ed Lamb was ever thought of.
All right. Okay, well then, how would you tell me about Edmund Lamb? Tell me about his, what he did, who he was, his family, where he lived, that kind of thing.
I really don't know a lot about Ed Lamb, except what I've heard. I didn't know him personally. He lived in the Billy Colson house here in Carmel, right behind the gown store. He was a funeral director here. He used to, I suppose, lay out people, and he also used to sing at funerals. Of course, in those days, all the funerals was held right in the family home. We didn't have any funeral parlor or anything like that. And I don't think there was very much embalming going on in those days. And then later on, he ran a store which had they made harnesses for horses, and he did shoes. And then he went into business with Stillman Loring, who was also a barber. And Stillman Loring, I know him very well, fairly well. He used to barber my hair. And so they had a store right beside the library, which is now, that store was bought by Douglas Small, and he moved it up in Damascus Way for a hunting camp. But they used to have a barber shop there, shoe shop, and a harness shop. And I used to go in there and get my barbering done, and there used to always be a couple of harnesses hung up on the walls. And when the shoes was done, he had a nice little glass cage, which he put his shoes in, display them, and you could go in there and you didn't have to talk to him if you didn't want to. You just go in and see if your shoes was in the cage. If you were in there, then you paid him. Because back in those days, we didn't buy a new pair of shoes every 15 minutes. We bought a pair of shoes maybe once every year or two. And we had still, and Ed used to fix the soles on them and put new inner soles in them, new heels on them, and taps on the back of the heel so you could make a lot of noise going down the hall.
I've heard that Edmund was a cobbler and he had a horse harness sales business. He also did horse buggy repairs.
Yeah.
Is any of that's true?
Yes. He did, I don't know about the buggy, if he fixed buggies or not, could have. But I know he fixed harnesses and he did shoes.
Okay. So was he a community-based person? And I understand that at some point he helped fund a church there. Is that true?
In Etna?
Yeah, Edmund, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's referring to the Union Meeting Hall. I think Edmund's listed as one of the, like a treasurer or whatever to help with the build-up.
It's possible. I don't know for sure about that.
I think it's in the book.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Okay. So the house in question, we'll just call it the Lamb house there. What do you know about it? Like, it's like how it was built. Was it all built and located at that? Was it built on the site that it's at, or was it put together like from this piece of this house or whatever? Because I've been told that it was part of the house was moved to the location it's at, and then it was built on. Do you know anything about any of that, or was it all just built there on the site?
That I don't know. As far as I know, it was built right on site. I don't believe it was ever moved. I've never heard of anybody moving it. There was several buildings in town that was moved, but I know about them, but I've never heard of that one has been there for 90 years, so I don't know anything more about it.
Okay, good enough. All right, can you tell me what happened, or who Naomi Mitchell was and what happened to her?
Naomi Mitchell was a young 14-year-old girl, nice-looking girl. They lived up on the Irish Road, and her dad, Finis Mitchell, which I knew very well, and I used to cut wood, so he used to file my saw blades. That was her father. And her mother sent her down to the store to get some groceries. And she went down to what later on was called the Garland store. Prior to that, it was another name for it, but I don't recall it offhand. But she went down there, a 14-year-old girl, nice-looking girl, went down and got some groceries for her mother for breakfast. And there was a guy in there by the name of Sherman Gray who was kind of watching her. And some of the guys was kind of teasing him and telling him that he should go and date her. And she got her groceries and she left. And he was working on the Hussback Road further up, which she had to go over the Fuller Road. So she went over the Fuller Road, and then somebody saw him come back down the Hussback Road and go over the Fuller Road behind her. And she never come home. So the next morning they found where she had been dragged into she had put up quite a fight right there by the road, and he had dragged her into the woods and murdered her, dissected some of her, as I understand it, and some of the parts were missing, and some were dangling around in the trees. And they tried to find him. They thought that maybe that he had done it. So they tried to find him, and they finally found him down in Franklin, I think down in Franklin. Searsport?
Yeah, like right almost.
Down around Searsport somewhere. He walked into a house, he was hungry. It had been several days. He was very hungry. So a lady asked him to come in and have something to eat. So he came in and she fed him. And while he was eating, she called the police because she recognized him. And they came out and arrested him and took him to jail. And there he pleaded guilty. And he was called an infidel. And at one time he had been put into an insane asylum, but he had been let go so that he could work. And anyway, he was put in state prison. And as far as I know, he died there. And he had a brother named Wint Gray, which he had a Model A Ford, a gray one. And he used to go over by my house, and he used to go ice. He was a nice guy. Wint Gray was a nice guy, his brother. But my grandmother, who raised me, was scared to death of him, and she'd say, "Here comes Wint, run for the house." So I'd run for the house and get in the house, and he'd go by. But I found out later years that he was a pretty nice guy. And as far as I know, some people say that he may not have been guilty, but he pleaded guilty, and he was put in prison, and he died in prison. And I don't know of anybody else at that time, and I've looked over a lot of the Bengal Daily News articles from that period. My wife and I did that, and it looked pretty much so that he was guilty.
So you mentioned that he was in an insane asylum. So was he a mentally handicapped person?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was mentally handicapped. And he was let out so that he could work and help, I think either his mother or his aunt, who lived right here in the village. And he was a big rugged guy. And he was hired up on the horseback road there to do the haying. So.
Gotcha. I'm going to go back to the Lamb house real quick. Was the Lamb house ever used as a funeral home itself?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. Back then, I used to go to funerals when I was a kid, and all the funerals that I went to, there was no place to like the funeral homes today. They as a matter of fact, they didn't embalm as much, maybe not at all, but the people would be right in the homes where they died. They'd have the funeral right there.
Right. Okay, was there ever a girl named Rachel Mitchell that was Phineas's daughter or anything like that?
Rachel?
Yeah, was there a Rachel Mitchell?
I don't know. I know one of her sisters, Viva Mitchell Bowen. That's the only one that I do. And there was another one that was married. Her name was I don't remember what her name was.
So you don't have any knowledge of a Rachel Mitchell that was pregnant and killed herself and was known as, a slutty type of person and all this stuff. You don't know anything about any of that?
Never heard of it. Never heard of it.
Okay.
No, I don't think there's such thing. I know her sister Viva. She lived next door to me. And I knew her children. They went to school with me. There was Charlene and Francis and Howard and Bobby. And they went to school with me. And I never ever heard of that name before, but could have been possibly, but I don't know of anything. I never heard of it.
All right. Let me ask you this: Have you ever had anything paranormal happen to you at the Historical Society at the building that you're in right now?
Well, I worked on this house for 3 years. I sheetrocked it. I sanded the floors, painted it, put the cabinets in it, and worked on it for 3 solid years. The only thing that I saw was a chipmunk going through the attic at one time. And that was the only thing that I saw that I didn't know exactly what it was until I searched it out and found it was a chipmunk running around up there. There was nothing ever paranormal that I know of in the house. It just never happened.
Okay. There's some sort of story that's been kicked around about Freemasons and the layout of Carmel and all this being, some sort of symbol. I imagine that's not true. You don't know anything about any of that, do you?
That's not true. I've been a member of the Masons. I'm getting my pin, my 65-year-old pin this next month. I had 65 years in the 3rd of September, this past September. They're going to present me with my pin. So I've been a Mason right here in Carmel for that Benevolent Lodge number 87. I was a past master in 1987, and I was a secretary for 19 years. And I've never heard anything ever said bad about the Masons here in Carmel. Never.
Yeah, I assume not. Congratulations on your 65 years, by the way.
Thank you.
Trying to think if there's anything else that I can get out of you because I'm just going based on what Kent has told me, and I needed to double check those things. I can't think of anything else. I'm sure the other guys have some questions for you.
I did work on the Masonic Lodge for 2 or 3 years before I was the master, after I had retired from the Air Force. And that was, the first lodge meeting was held in the old town hall upstairs. And then they moved up here to where they are now. And that was the Masonic started the lodge in Benevolent Lodge number 87, was put together in 1857. And I have all the records. They're out at the hall now.
Okay. Right. Do you have some pictures and stuff like that of these people that you've told me about that you can supply my guys with there, or anything, any kind of records, or lead them to where the store was that Naomi Mitchell was at, so they can get some pictures of that or some footage of that. Anything that you have that we've talked about that I can use in the documentary?
We have pictures of the store, and as a matter of fact, the store is still standing today.
Okay.
That's over on the Fuller Road in Carmel, by the Horseback and Fuller Road. And pictures of the stores where Lamb was. We have pictures of that, where Stillman Lawrence shop was, and Ed Lamb's.
Awesome. Do you have any pictures of Edmund Lamb or Naomi Mitchell or J. Sherman Gray? Do you have any pictures of them?
I think we have pictures of Ed Lamb.
Okay.
I'm sure we do. I don't have to have time to hunt those up though.
Okay, that's fine. That's fair.
But
that's
I don't know if I have any of Sherman Gray. I don't think I do have any of him.
Okay.
They may have put one in the Bangor Daily News. We used to go in and research that daily with my wife, and I used to have a whole pocket full of quarters because you had to drop a quarter in every so often to look at these papers. So, but I don't recall seeing a picture of him. So maybe there was no picture. I don't know.
Yeah, I have like an artist's rendition of him, but I didn't know if there were any actual photos laying around or something.
Yeah. How did you get that?
It's on the internet.
It's on the internet?
Yeah.
How did it get on the internet?
I just looked up his name and put in Maine, and I got a picture of him, and I got a picture of the article talking about madman still loose in the woods.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I got some of that, but I don't really know where the source is, or it just.
Yeah.
You can go on a website called Google and look up pictures, and basically you get whatever picture you want if it's available, and that's how I found that.
Right. Yeah.
Being an investigator is fun work, I tell you.
Yeah.
If my guys, I can't think of anything else. Maybe if my guys can ask you some questions, it might spark up some more questions for me, because I'd like to get the most out of my time. So I'll let them ask you some questions for a bit while I sit here on the phone.
Okay.
So I'm going to come a little closer to the mic. Now, when you were talking about the Mason Hall, and when you guys converted it from, what was it, Dr. Benjamin or something? I can't remember his name. That used to own the place.
Who was it? John Benjamin. Yeah.
Yep.
It was a farm. It was a farmhouse.
Yeah. I seen the picture in the book.
Yeah.
Obviously, and it talks about that. It talks about how they converted it to the, I guess, did he donate it to the?
He donated it.
Yeah, to the Mason.
Plaque is right on the wall up there on the outside.
Now, one of the things that Kent had said, and it was the time that I had got done with Ghost of Carmel, Maine, it was actually the exact time, was that, and Jimmy had asked you questions about it before, like about the layout of the town. He claims that there was a village triangle, and it's always been called that. Now, I know there was a village triangle, which was like the watering thing over on the other side of the intersection here or whatever, but he claims that from Church Street down Route 2 and back up here 69, that little triangle was created by the Masons when the town was first formed, when they put the roads in, and he actually has a video out now. He says that Route 2 and 69 were numbered them routes because, and he shows a picture of a Mason picture, and I think it's the Tropic of Cancer, and it's I can't remember if it's a Scottish Rite or something that has this thing, and it's about the basically about the sun, I guess, and it shows the Cancer symbol. There's like two pillars representing, I guess, the Tropic of Capricorn Cancer. I'm not sure, but he took that picture and he superimposed it over the layout of the town and overhead of the town. And he says that they named it because in that picture, the 69, which is actually the Cancer sign or whatever, sideways or whatever, he says they named the town road that because of that. And I can't remember what he said was Route 2, but he claimed that they did this so they could create a portal, which is conveniently at Edmund Lamb's old house, so they could come back. That's the story that he gave. To be honest with you, that's the story that I told, that I came up with. People had asked me online what I thought of Kent's new story, and I said it was hogwash. That was my exact words. I just wrote, it's hogwash. Well, that started a firestorm, and that's why, it was when I was getting done. But so, like from what you're saying, now Ken said that they put that lodge there to create this village triangle to make the roads. Now, I'm assuming that long before that was a Mason Hall, when it was John Benjamin's, right? That the roads were already named. I'm sure the layout was
Long before that.
Yeah, right. And I think it weren't even until the 20s before like the whole country started labeling routes by numbers. I think it was still called like the Hamden Road and the Plymouth Road and and them sort of things. But so them are the type of stories that like I'm trying to debunk, that Jimmy's trying to debunk. show that how untrue and implausible that even is. And you know, when you answered the question about to Jimmy about when the about the Mason Hall, that just shows right there that his whole, I mean, it's quite an elaborate, and I mean, anybody with a little bit of common sense can look at that and say, well, this don't make sense. You know, it's just foolish. But he did quite a bunch of it.
The lodge never moved up there till quite recently. It was always in the third floor of the old town hall.
Right.
Down on 69 for years and years. Well, began there in 1857.
Right.
And then, I don't know, it was gracious, I don't know, it was 30 or 40s before they ever moved up here.
But what's odd is I think it was within a year of Edmund Lamb actually dying. It's been a few years since I did all this research, but I think it was like 46, sometime right around that, if I remember right, like when it was donated and all that. So
the plaque is on the building.
It is. Yep. I'll have to go over. I'll take Ben around and we'll go. I'll show him.
It's right on the corner of the building.
Right on. What was it? I know there was. I'm gonna get my list real quick. It's gonna grab it. Of course, I got this. It's just my Carmel Bible. Alright.
Yeah, do your best to like when you ask Mr. Grant's question to to back off and let him do his thing and just let him talk.
Yeah, I just wanted to feel, you know, and
I got you.
Well, I'm just assuming that he doesn't know any of the stories that Ken has told.
Right.
And you know, and I was just telling him how that kind of verifies that whole story was.
I never heard that before. It's kind of ridiculous, really.
He also said there was a couple witches that used to live in what he calls the Lamb House for a long time.
You know what I told you?
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Yeah. So let me think here. I wonder if
what did you tell him?
well, we can always edit out after.
I said there might be a couple of bitches, but there's no witches.
Let me look through here. All right. So actually, now I already know the answer to this, but I'm gonna have to. Through the years, has anybody ever referred to that home as a lamb house? Like, is that what it's known as?
Not very many people.
In your opinion, do you think anybody would really even know who Edmund Lamb ever was without having this book or coming here?
No.
Okay.
No.
That was something I want to do. Business. Okay. Out on the site behind the school, behind the middle school, where the Mitchells live. Behind Caravel,
Yeah.
right? No, that's about where the Mitchells' house.
Just before you get there.
Just before you get there.
On the same side.
That's very interesting. Now, Ken has claimed that it is directly behind the school, like you go out the field and they have the seating area out there, the kids can go out and read or whatever. He claims that is the location where the Mitchells live.
No.
No, okay, thank you. And then he also states there, and there's a rock there, and he states that is a grave marker for a child that it was, I believe the neighbors had lost a child, which I think there's some partial truth to that. I think it's in the book, but maybe not even.
I don't think it's in the book.
You know, yeah, nothing about like there ever being a child and being buried. Well, according to Ken, it was the neighbor's child. It died as a baby, and they buried it there. And he had caught a video, which he claims is an apparition, right? And he says it was praying or whatever over that grave. As far as your knowledge, is there any grave?
Never. Never. The only grave that I know of is on the Fuller Road before you down by the brook, before you get to the brook from the 5 Road.
Yep.
Going towards Bangor, by the brook. There's a road that goes up in there, for the old Braun place, and there's a grave site up in there, and the rail is still around it. The last time I was up there, and there's 2 or 3 rocks have been placed up standing up straight, but there's no names on them. But there is one baby with a stone on it. It was one of their children that was buried there, and that's there today. And I think somebody is going to bring that back and fix it up for the people.
That would be nice if someone did.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But there was no stone or any baby buried over behind Carmel School that I ever heard of.
Yeah, I hadn't either. So I wanted to verify that with you. Let me see. Of course, I'm just looking for a few more things here. He actually asked you a lot of the questions that I had. Now, by the time the Harveys took over undertaking or whatever and had the bigger funeral home or whatever, was Edmund was already out of that business, was he?
I think he was pretty much out of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Harold Harvey took over the funeral home, and his brother Beverly. And Beverly moved to Connecticut.
I had a lot of questions when he was asking you questions, and I've had a lot of questions for over the years that I wanted to ask you. And like I told you when we got here, that to me it was such a touchy subject to ever want to come and ask you anything like that.
Oh, you should have.
Because
when I was a kid, we used to sit around the table. It was my grandfather and grandmother raised me, and my father died when I was a year old. But we used to talk about all these things all the time. And then, of course, Naomi Mitchell, her sister lived next door to me, Viva Mitchell. And so I used to be down there all the time and talk with her, and she just died a few years ago. And Finn Mitchell, the father, I knew him very well. He used to live in a house down on 69. He had another daughter who was married there to Moss. And I don't remember her name. But he lived in a little house there right by the road. We used to take our saw blades down there, and he used to file them for $1. When he could really file a saw blade. And they'd wrap them all up in newspaper, and we'd take them out and cut wood.
Do you know why he's buried down back of the cemetery, down over that little hill?
Who, Phineas?
Yeah.
No.
I wondered it. The story that I heard from Kent was that he was put there because it's just one of the stories he made up for a while. Something bad he did at one point or whatever. So the family shunned him or whatever and buried him down there. Now I've actually since then I've talked to one of his relatives named Pomeroy. Last name was Pomeroy. I can't remember his first name now, but he was an older gentleman, and he said that Phineas had just requested. That's where he wanted to be buried, so that's where he bought his or whatever. But it was made a big deal of why wasn't he buried by his daughter or anything, which that happens all the time with people.
Because when his daughter was murdered, there wasn't much money around in those days, and people really, I think the people bought her stone and things like that. They wrote poems about her. Mm-hmm. The poem, I think, is in the book.
Yeah.
And there was some lady over in Levant wrote that.
Yep.
But I think that Finn was a very nice gentleman, and he still has relatives lives right where he lived, almost.
Really? See,
I'd like to ask something here.
Sure.
I also heard that after Naomi died, that Phineas and Evelyn divorced, and then Phineas possibly had another child with another woman that he married later. Is there any truth to any of that?
I never heard of it. There's a possibility, but I've never heard of it.
That was pretty much it. I mean, that was that. I just thought of that. If you have more questions, go right ahead.
We had a few bad people in Carmel. You know, every town has a few bad people.
Right.
You know, I had a cousin that was bad. Matter of fact, he went to jail. He was killed in jail. But there was Sherman Gray, Hicks, James Hicks, and so those people, they're just bad people, that's all. But you get, every once in a while, you get 2 or 3 of these people, and it doesn't say that there's paganism going on in the town and things are bad. And, I don't know. I'd love to believe that the spirits was coming around here and they could listen to them and talk to me. Wonderful. But they never come to me, and I've never seen them. And I've been around them, and everybody's telling me they're around me, but I've never seen them, heard them, and nobody's ever proved to me that there's anything around. And you go with them to the cemeteries in the middle of the night, nothing ever happens. The only thing is that door right there. Every once in a while it comes open, but I think maybe it's air from a cellar window. Down cellar blows it open. But I really don't think there's. I mean, I think Mr. Mitchell believes that there's ghosts around, and he talks to them, but I can't talk to them. Nobody wants to talk to me.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you. I love talking to you.
I know, this is great. I can do this for like ever. I love it.
I have one more question that I should have asked right in the first place. I don't know why I didn't. I'd like you to give me an introduction, who you are, and how long you've lived in Carmel, where you're from, that kind of thing. So if you just, give me your name and...
My name is Marvin D. Graves, Marvin David Graves. I was born February 4th, 1934. I'll be 90 years old this coming February. I went to Carmel High School. Graduated in 1952. This was a beautiful town at that time. It had beautiful trees, and I had a wonderful high school. And then I went in 1953. I joined the United States Air Force. I spent 20 years in the Air Force. I retired at the age of 30. I just turned 39. I retired as a master sergeant. My wife and I, they come to my wife, not to me. They came to my wife and asked her if she'd be interested in starting a historical society. And between Dwayne Small and Douglas Small and Gloria Small and my wife, they said, yes, we would be willing to start one. So we purchased this building in 1994, I believe it was. And we didn't have enough money to pay for it. It was $41,000 at the time. So we went to the bank and we got a guy in there who would give us the money to do it without even just our signatures. So we got the money and I fixed the house up. And as I was fixing it up, we had a couple come in and said, well, I wouldn't rent that. This is an awful place. But they come back about 3 months later and they come in, they said, we'll take that. So they rented it, and his name is Carmichael, lives over in Damascus now. So he and his wife, they rented it, and we paid for the place in 3 years, just under 3 years, 2 years and 9 months we paid for it, paid it off. But we raised a lot of money. I worked on it about every day for about 2 or 3 years, this place and the place next door. We sheetrock. I thought I'd have to have 20 or 30 sheets of sheetrock. I put about 60 or 70 sheets of sheetrock on it. The ceilings all fell down. I had to replace the ceilings. We repainted it. We painted the outside of it. I painted that twice. I resanded all the hardwood floors. They all come out beautiful. I put new furnace in the basement. We put Douglas Small put gravel in, and we fixed the barn all up. Put cement in that. Redid it. Repaired the roofs. Put new shingles on, and I was president here for 2 or 3 years. I don't recall which years they were, but my wife was the president for many years, and then I did it for 2 or 3 years, and then I think we had, who else do we have for president? I don't recall. Julia Pike is now the president, and she's been president for 5 or 6 years now, or more than that. So, and I come out every day. I check this place every single day to make sure that things are good. I drive in the dooryard. If I don't get out, come in. But in the wintertime, I come in and check for heat, make sure everything's going good, no mice or anything around. And looks pretty nice in here.
So, at any time, because I was under the impression that you were the town historian. Is that accurate?
Well, I'm not really, but everybody calls me, so I guess you could say that I probably know quite a lot of history about this town.
Okay. And what does that, aside from all the physical labor you did, what does the town historian do?
What do we do?
Yeah.
Well, we just seem to know the history of the town. If you know the history of the town, and we try to capture the history as best we can in writing. We do all kinds of scanning of stuff like that, of all the articles. I don't know what else we do as far as, I guess that's about it.
And basically, you study them. I imagine that you investigate to a degree, right? Is that accurate? If you're looking at history, there's some, you're trying to make sure that that what you're putting out there is accurate.
That's right.
So can you tell me a little bit about that process?
Well, we try to get everything as accurate as possible. When things are given to us, we try to write them down as exactly who gave it to us. If people who, well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the answer to your question.
That's fair. I think you gave me enough. As long as you're telling me that, it's you're being thorough and you've got to make sure it's accurate, then that's really, that's good information.
Yeah. We try to make sure everything is accurate as possible. I've been out here. I spend a lot of time here in the last. So we've had this about almost 30 years now, and I've been out here. In 30 years, I've been out here every single day, I guess. Just about every single day, and I've worked on it just about every day, except now that I can't do too much. It's because I'm 90 years old. But I try to steer some of the people that work here now the best I can. I try to steer Julia Pike as best I can. She's the president.